Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. So sit back and relax or walk and listen and join me on this journey as we try to answer this never-ending question. What makes people say, why not? Hello guys, so we're here for the last episode before the summer break. Don't miss me too much, but I want to talk about how sometimes we can't see how far we've come today. This is inspired by a story I will tell you in the podcast about something I realised about myself. And yeah, that's basically it. I think we should all have a little reflect from time to time, because sometimes you just forget how much you've changed or don't even see it happening. So anyway, hope you enjoy. Hi guys, welcome back to Why Not. So this is going to be the last episode before my little summer break. So I did this last year. I didn't post episodes in July or August. I just posted from the vault episodes. So I'm going to do that again this year, just because, you know, summer's a busy time and it's nice to take a little break from creating these things from time to time. And I really enjoyed doing it last year, so I'm doing it again this year. Also, fun fact for anyone, I am currently under a jumper in the gym because I've had a very busy week last week and a little bit disorganised and didn't get this recorded until today. And now is my opportunity. And the reason I am under a jumper is because it stops some of the atmosphere sounds, hopefully, coming through, and you'll only hear my voice. So, anyone on my Instagram, that is the answer to the guess, if you want to try and guess. Otherwise, I'm going to get started with the podcast. So, I kind of think I'm going to call this podcast something along the lines of, you know, on a never-ending search of growth or something like that. And that's, I think, where we need to be, or I think even that's where we need to look at ourselves sometimes, because I think it can be really easy to think you're stuck or you're not doing anything, but at the same time you could have, like, if you ever reflect back on the last couple of years, the last couple of months, like, what is different to then? If the answer is nothing, then you should probably change that. But sometimes I think you find when you actually do look back, you see how much has changed. And this, I suppose, is kind of inspired by myself in a sense. So this weekend I went up to a show with the Grassroots Gazette, and we were up there filming content, meeting people, looking at horses, you know, all that kind of thing. And it kind of struck me at one point that for those who don't know, I did a communications or media degree in college before I became a PT. And that was, I graduated in 2013. So at the time, I wanted to specialise in audio, and here I am, my podcast. But podcasts weren't really a thing yet. Like, it was more, a podcast was a recording of a radio episode that you could listen to. iPods are kind of a thing. I don't think the iPhone was out yet. It might have been. But anyway, it was a different time. It was 10 years ago. I feel old now. Like, the likes of Instagram barely existed, TikTok didn't exist, and things like that. So it's interesting now, because when I was in my course, about halfway through, I was like, you know what, I actually hate this. I don't want to do this, because part of it was you had to get in front of people, you had to go talk to people. Another thing with the audio was, like, it was very hard to get a paid job in it. And a lot of the people that were in my course were kind of very extroverted. I was more of a quiet person. And I suppose by the end of it, I was like, this is not something I want to do. I used to shake when I was giving presentations in front of people. I was that nervous of speaking. It was really hard for me to do anything like that. And here I am 10 years later at a competition, win a media brand, not only filming and recording content with people, but also doing interviews with people in front of the camera. And you kind of look back and go, what the hell? How did that happen? And obviously it's 10 years and I am still quite the introvert, but over the years things have changed. I worked in retail for a while, then I moved to become a PT, which is something I love and I enjoy, but that was something that made me have to get in front of people. And when I got in front of people, I got used to getting in front of people. I got used to showing my weird personality and people enjoyed it and my little silly quirks, and I continued on, so that made me more confident. And then obviously I've started creating more content for myself, which, stuff like the podcast is really handy because you can edit any issues or anything you mess up. I got used to talking to people that way and speaking with people, and then making my own videos, and I do find that it is easier talking to nobody. And again, a lot of the time you can edit and that's great. Whereas when we went up to the show, I was kind of being videoed live and having to think on my feet with people I hadn't met, which is really interesting and completely different. And I think if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would I ever do something like that? The answer would have been a quick no. And that has been a gradual growth over time. And don't get me wrong, I don't find these kind of things linear. Some of the reasons I've been able to do these things is because other people have told me to do it. So when I was up the thing, the guy I was just saying was like, right, you're going to go do an interview. And I went, okay, fine. I wouldn't have just gone, oh, I'll go do it. Stuff like that, people are like, right, you're going to go teach a class now. And I was nervous, but I said I'd have to do it. And over time, you get better at it, you get used to it. Like, if you make a mistake in different things, you just laugh at yourself. I always found that's the quickest. I also found, coming into new gyms, the best thing to do was just, even if you were nervous, don't act it. And then the clients come around to you quicker. And these are all things you learn over the years, and then you learn to project that into other parts of your life. So it's, it's an interesting thing, and I think everyone should sit down and think about this. This was just something that stuck with me, and a story that I wanted to share with you guys before I take my little break, because I think when you don't sit back and look at how far you've come, it can be very easy to get into ruts and be very self-deprecating, which is another issue I have. I have so many problems with negative self-talk, and I'm aware of it, and I try to catch it and try and stop myself from doing it, but it's hard. Some days you will have bad days, and some days you have good days. You feel great, coming off the back of the show, you feel great, and then a couple of days later, sometimes it's just, ugh. And that's something I've struggled with for years, even with maybe social media is portraying something different, that I'm confident and I'm telling you things, but I'm constantly self-doubting, and sometimes I don't get guests on podcasts for a long time because I'm too nervous to ask them or ask people, because I'm afraid they'll say no. But them saying no is not a big deal. So it's interesting to see that, and I think it's important to acknowledge that you do have good days and bad days, and you can't always be firing at 100%. And if you are, what drugs are you on? But I think when you have these bad days, it's really important to learn maybe what triggers them. Could it be, say for instance, alcohol? Could it be your job? Could it be just the time of your month? I don't know. Sometimes that happens to me. I find just before I get very down on myself. And when you know what sets that off, then you can either avoid it or know how to manage it. So if it's alcohol, for instance, maybe you need to take a break from drinking, or maybe just drink a bit less. If it's work, can you change the environment in work? Is it a management issue? Is it an environment issue? Maybe you need to have a look at a new job that might work well for you, better for you. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then that, if it's time of the month, well, if you start feeling down yourself, maybe if you track your cycle, you can be like, that's why. So then you, as I said, you can kind of put things in place that help you not feel that way. Or if you catch yourself feeling like that, do you go, okay, what's causing this? Great. Can I do something about it? Great. Is it the truth? That's another big one. Like, all these negative self-thoughts. Like, is it true? When you say these things, like, I would be like, oh, I'm terrible, I'm useless. But am I really? Like, you have to remind yourself, because, like, I have clients who come to me, so I can't be that bad. I have people who want to work with me. So if I'm that terrible, why do people want to work with me? I have a fiance I live with, so if I'm that bad, why is he with me? And those are things I suppose you have to catch and question yourself and think about, and then maybe eventually you won't think them anymore. But I don't think that'll ever not happen. I think it will still be a thing that comes and goes, and it's like everything, it's unless you practice it, it's gonna stay that way, or if you do it for a while and it gets hard and you give up, it's going to go back to where it was. And that's, I think, something we all struggle with, is getting past that hard point that we don't really want to do it anymore, but we should. And you have to do that too. Like, you have to go through tough times in order to get to where you want to be. So I think it's important that we keep pushing through. And this is going to sound like a complete and utter contradiction, but on the flip side, if something is really, really getting to you, and it's to the point where it's just too much for you, you have to be honest with yourself and say, do I need a break? So for instance, now I know I need to take a little break from the podcast because I will just get a little bit, not bored, but disenchanted with it, disenfranchised, something like that. And I don't think the quality will be as good, and I don't think I'll be happy to reach out for guests. And that's why I take a little 2-month break in the summer when everyone is away anyway. There's 130 odd episodes that everyone can listen to while I'm gone, and then when I come back in September, I'll be buzzing to get going again. I can't wait to find new guests and talk to new people, and I'll probably organise a few interviews over summer, so we're already kind of ahead before I start back actually releasing the podcast. And that's really important as well, because I want to keep the quality high, so taking a break is just so important sometimes. And again, when this kind of thing happens, and I've talked about this in fitness and before, and this is in relation to whatever you're doing, like, is it business, is it fitness, is it, I don't know, a life change, I don't know, but be honest with yourself. Do you actually need a break, or do you just not want to do it? Because there can be two sides to that, there's this not wanting to do it, like, just I don't feel like doing it, and there's the severe avoidance feeling, it's actually making you upset to try to do whatever you're trying to do, or you're so exhausted that you just can't feel like you can drag yourself up to do it. They're the times when you need to take a break. It's not the times where you're like, ugh, effort, I don't really feel like doing that. No, it's not that. That is, I cannot be arsed and I don't want to do it. So it's important to know which is which, and just because it's hard doesn't mean you stop. A lot of the time when you're putting off something or you're kind of not feeling like doing it, the hardest part is just starting. As I said, for me right now, this podcast will be out probably in the next hour because I am recording it on the morning. Thankfully, I get up silly early and nobody's generally awake now. And I'm happy to admit that, because I like to be honest about things, and I, have bad days too. I have bad week. Last week I just didn't have the energy for things. I was so tired all week, and I knew that if I tried to do the podcast then it just wouldn't come out at all. So now I have an idea, I have a topic, I have inspiration from being at the show at the weekend, and now I have a little short topic for you guys to think about. So I would love to give people a challenge who are listening to this. I hate hearing these things, but I make myself do them as well because it's really, really cool to acknowledge what you're doing. But have a look at maybe something that to you is you want to do. Look at what you've been focusing on it for the year so far. How's it been going? How hasn't it been going? Or the other thing is even just do what I did. Like, so for me, working in a media brand now, as someone who couldn't talk to a fly, I don't know, 10 years ago, and I know that sounds like a really long time, but I can't believe it's been 10 years since I left. But look at something like that. Maybe like when you went to college, what did you do? What did you want to do? Look how far you've come. This could be just be maybe it's a corporate job and you're higher up, but like if you're higher up in a corporate job, that means you've been doing a good job and you've learned and you've probably built people skills that you may not have realised or you may not have known you had in college. And now you're going, oh yeah, look, I'm a completely different person. Maybe now you have a house or something you're working towards, or maybe you are working towards a house and you feel like you're never going to get one. But if you look at how far you've come savings wise, there's something. Maybe it's a family goal or something. Just you may not be there yet, but why don't you look at where you've come from so far? Because that's the big thing I think we all need to do more. This is something my business group gets us to do, and I'm a devil for doing it because I like to write it down and put it away and pretend it's never happening. But I actually had a look at my goals that I need to do for the end of the month, so I have a rake of stuff to do by the end of the month, which is class. And it's important because if we don't do this, it's very easy to get into a rut. As I said, as someone who struggles with these kind of negative thoughts constantly, I'm not afraid to say that I beat myself up constantly, and obviously I don't show that on social media because duh. And but like there are things that you are improving on and changing, and sometimes you need someone to tell you you're doing well. For me, I do, or sometimes I need to get people to set deadlines for me because if I try to do it for myself, I won't do it. But I think it's all about hacking the system. So that's something for me that's become a really big thing as well, because I know for myself, I don't always trust myself with my own deadlines, so I'll get Peter set me a deadline and then I have to do it. Or I found gamifying or making things a challenge make me so much more likely to do them because, again, I want to win. I'm very competitive. And I've only learned that through, I suppose, trial and error, or seeing things, how I work and acknowledging how I work. So I think you have to be able to acknowledge how you work. So in a case of, this is what you do, don't make an excuse. Be like, okay, so I do that, right, fine, now how can I change it? Say, for instance, I have ADHD, I've spoken about that openly, and I could say that I can't get anything done because of ADHD. Or I could go, all right, so how can I use that to my advantage? I can get a hyper-focus hour going down and just do this absolute class amount of work. Or I have a deadline, I will get loads done. Yes, it'll annoy me that I'm putting it off till the deadline, but I know I'll get it done and I'll get it done well for the deadline. So this is why I need deadlines. If you give me an open end, I won't do anything with it. And once I've learned that and I know how to, as I said, hack my brain, hack how it works, some days I do loads of work because I'm ready up for it, and other days I just don't have the mental capacity, and that's not necessarily the ADHD, that can just be tiredness. Another thing I had to learn was to try and plan less for a day, and the reason being, I forget that I work from 6 to 10 some days, but I'm actually working. So I'm tired when I get back, whereas before I was like, well, you're back, you can do this, this and this, and then I was getting frustrated that I wasn't getting it done. Now I know I'm like, okay, let's do 2 things instead of 7, and then I'm more likely to get it done. And again, that's another hack, and that's another way of making yourself feel better and not feeling like you're failing yourself when you're not getting what you think you should be getting done. And if you have any other suggestions of how you can hack yourself or things that you found have worked for you, please do share them on the podcast post. I'd love to hear about it. But with that, guys, I think I'm going to leave you. I hope you found this informative. I hope you found this made you think a little bit, because it definitely made me think. And I'm going to get out of my fort in a minute. Podcasts will return in September as in new episodes. I will share previous episodes all the way through the summer if you want to catch up on some of the older ones. But if you are looking to keep up with me, you will find me at @stronginthesaddle_ Instagram, at @stronginthesaddle with no underscore on TikTok. I'm also over on Instagram at Chrissy H Fitness. And my last thing is my website, where you can join my email list, where you'll still get up-to-date chattings and musings from me every week. And that is www.chrissyhawkins.com. So hope you guys have a great summer, and I shall talk to you again in September. I really do appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast. So if you please could help me with the algorithm and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And even, if you want to reach out and suggest topics for me, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Drop me a DM on Instagram or TikTok. And thanks again for listening.